of chapter 11, 11.5, and it's really kind of an application section where we're looking at applying some of these formulas to home ownership. So first off, we need to talk about what mortgages are. And basically, it's the amount of money or money borrowed to buy real estate. Now, mortgages follow a very particular formula. For a lot of these purchases, there's going to be what's called a down payment. And so the mortgage is the selling price minus the down payment. So that's going to be a key point to talk about. When we look at the selling price for a piece of real estate, that's not necessarily going to be the mortgage. There's going to be usually some kind of down payment that's going to be asked for first. And then whatever's left over, that's going to be the mortgage. So usually the down payment, it's a percent of the selling price. Now, there's some other things that are going to come up with purchasing real estate. And these are called closing costs. So the point of this, when you're buying something, you're not just, the price that you see, the sticker price isn't just what's going to be the cost. There are going to be some other costs as well. And these are called closing costs. And this could be attorney fees.
It says closing costs?
Correct.
I don't know if you want to move the camera up just a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No problem. It could be fees for attorneys, fees for credit reports. Loan processing. Title searches. I mean, other things as well. Now, there's something else that goes in with closing costs. So it's not just these things, but you also have what's called a loan origination fee. And this is usually expressed as what they call points, or points on your mortgage. So again, it's going to be the mortgage, not the selling price, but the mortgage. And so typically what this is 1 point equals 1% of the mortgage. So again, you've got a selling price, and there's usually some kind of a down payment that someone's going to ask for, and it's usually a percentage of the selling price. So once you make your down payment, well, there's still more that you need to pay for. And so that's going to be the mortgage, the leftover that you still need to cover. In addition to covering the mortgage, you're going to have these closing costs, and you could have this loan origination fee, which is measured in basically points or percents of the mortgage. So any questions about that? All right. So let's say you've got this. Let's say you have a house selling for $392,000. With a down payment of 20%. Now, let's say the bank charges $450 in fees and 2.5 points. So the bank's going to charge $450 in fees and 2.5 points. So let's find the total of the down payment and the closing costs, which again includes those points. Now, the down payment, let's find that. So that's 20%. Of our selling price. So we'll do 20% times the 392,000. And we got to make this a decimal, put it in decimal form. And so that's going to come out to 78,400. So that's going to be the down payment. Now, we know there's $450 in fees.
Is it 78,400?
Correct.
Okay.
So the bank fees is 450. Now we need to deal with the points. Now the points, these are calculated using the mortgage. So the mortgage, well, that's selling price minus down payment And so the selling price was the 392,000. We're going to subtract that down payment, 78,400. And so we get a mortgage of 313,000. So now that we have the mortgage, now we can calculate the points. So 2.5 points. We can represent as 2.5 points or 2.5%. So to calculate this loan origination fee, it's based on the points. Loan origination fee two and a half percent. Oh, I'm sorry, 2.5 times the mortgage. We're putting this in decimal form. And that's going to come out to $7,840. So
The LOF.
Oh, loan origination fee, or this is the fee we calculate using the points. But that's the LOF. I'm just giving that kind of a quick abbreviation. So finally, to get the total, so this is what you would have to show up to the bank with. The total will be the down payment plus the closing costs or the down payment and so we have the bank fee or closing costs will be that bank fee plus the LOF. Or 78,400 plus 450 plus 7840. And that comes out to 86,690. So with the down payment and the fees, you've got to come up with 86,690. So you look at the down payment, you say, well, the down payment's 78,000, but there's going to be these other fees here, and that's going to boost up that amount of money you need to show up with at the bank. So any questions about this? All right. Is it okay if I erase this here?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just going to go over some terms real quick. So other things with mortgages, there's something called foreclosing. Or foreclosure. And this is when the bank takes back or actually I should say takes possession.
So just real quick, on the, like you were saying with the mortgage and everything, the 2.5 points, it gave away so much percentage so that you didn't have to pay as much for the house. Is that what that was doing? Or is that like the total cost that you owe, or was that just a total down payment?
That's sort of like a total down payment plus the fees and the points. Those won't be, they won't shrink your mortgage down. So the down payment shrinks the mortgage down, but the points won't. Those are just separate. Those are just sort of like additional fees. The mortgage won't be affected by the points.
Okay, I was just double checking to see if it would, if that was just the down payment with the fees, right?
Correct. That's all that is.
Cool.
So foreclosure, this is where the bank takes possession of property. Because of missed payments. And we're going to get into how to calculate these mortgage payments. There's two kinds of mortgages they talk about. And the first is what's called an adjustable rate mortgage. Or they'll abbreviate it like this, ARM. And the ideas with this is that the interest rate on your mortgage, it's going to be adjusted to reflect current interest rates. Now, usually the mortgage agreement will specify, this is what they're saying in the text, it'll say how often and by how much interest rate can change. There's some limits to this, it looks like. but it can change. And so you want to be a little careful with this, I would think. Again, this is my experience in this isn't much, but you don't want to get into a situation where say this really great low interest rate, but then there's the possibility where the contract allows for that interest rate to suddenly increase to a rate that's not really affordable. I want to be watch out for that sort of thing. Now, this is in contrast to what's called a fixed rate mortgage. And so the idea of a fixed rate mortgage is the interest rate stays the same. For the life of the loan. And again, you're talking about a loan for property, real estate, you're talking about the mortgage itself. Now, the mortgage payment is again going to be similar. The formula for mortgage payment, it's going to be that same formula we've seen before. And so we want to be careful with how we do these calculations. Where A, this is the mortgage, the total mortgage. R is the interest rate. N is the number of payments per year, and this is usually 12, usually a month. And T is years. So we'll take a look at an example here. So let's say we have this. Let's suppose, and I'm just looking at the example here in the text. This is a condominium selling for $134,000. In 30 years, that seems to be a very common amount for a mortgage. Take 30 years to pay this mortgage off. So taking a look at this, and the text recommends this. Let's say we're going to find the monthly payment. one of sort of the math tricks that the text recognizes and uses is to compute R over N from the get-go. Now again, R is going to be that interest rate as a decimal. So moving that decimal point 2 spots to the left. And monthly payments means 12 times per year. If we calculate that, let's see, put this in my calculator. Let me get something like that. So now going into the formula. Now A is the actual mortgage. So we're assuming that this $134,000, this is going to be, say, after down payments were made. And so we're dealing with the selling price minus down payments gives us that 134. And then NT is minus 12 for N times 30. See, negative 12 times 30. Let's see, 3 times 12 is 36 times additional 10 there. Negative 360. And again, this is one of those problems where you want to go through, use the digits, and I recommend taking time just to make sure you don't make a mistake, because it's easy to do. Pretty complicated calculations. So we're going to compute this next, this number to the negative 360. Let's see, what do we do when we get that? Let's see. That. Put this into my calculator. And so what we get is this. And again, I'm going to use as many digits as I can. So finally, we divide these two numbers. Calculator. Then finally, we multiply these two together, and we're going to get $846. And rounding to the hundreds place and letting the extra fractions of a cent just drop off, we're going to get that. And so that's going to be our answer. So questions about that? Now we're not done yet. Now keep in mind, this is a $134,000 loan that we're taking out to pay for this condominium. So here comes the part B. What is the total of the payments over the life of the loan? So each month, we're going to make a payment of $846.97. So let's figure out the total number of payments. Or let's say number of payments. Well, the number of payments for the life of the loan, we have 12 payments per year times 30 years. And this will turn out to be 360 payments. So for the entire life of this loan, we're going to make 360 payments. So the total in payments for each one of these payments each 360 of them, we're going to pay $846.97. So we're going to pay that 360 times. And when we do the math on that, well, it's going to be kind of surprising. Now, remember, this is the paying off a $134,000 loan over 30 years, and we're going to include the interest. It's $304,909.20. So because of the interest included on this loan, over 30 years, you're going to pay more than double the amount you actually borrowed. So finally, how much interest is paid? Well, what we do is we take total payments minus the mortgage to get the interest. Or $304,909.20 minus $134,000. And so that means for the life of this loan, we're paying $170,909.20. So the amount of interest you actually pay on this loan is larger than the amount that you're actually borrowing. So this is something to kind of keep in mind. So any questions about that? All right. Now let's see.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It was 134,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was for the answer?
Yeah, 304,909.20, and then it says minus 134,000. Hold on.
No, I got it right here.
Was it just 134,000?
134,000, no cents.
Okay. And then you had, okay. Sorry, I was just making sure that.
No worries. And you get $170,909.20. 20 cents.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Excuse me. Now, one of the things they talk about is amortizing a loan. And so we're going to take a look at that. And what this does is it's going to tell us essentially how much of our payment, when we make that monthly payment, what's happening to that money, because there's interest we have to pay off, and then there's the amount borrowed that we have to pay off. So what's going on there? So amortizing a loan is steady reduction of a loan. It's the steady reduction of a loan. So the way we figure this out, let's stick with our example. So for example, we had a mortgage, $134,000. So that's what we need to pay back. We have monthly payments. And then there's an annual interest rate of 6.5%. So what we want to figure out is this. What's the interest on this loan at the end of the first month? So we just purchased this condominium. So let's say this is M1, the end of the first month. So in this case, the interest, we're going to use our simple interest formula. How much interest have we earned on this loan? Well, it's going to be $134,000 times 0.065 times, now this is the end of the first month. Now this interest rate is an annual rate. So the time, a month is a 12th of a year, because annual means 6.5% per year. So end of the first month, that's only a 12th. A month is only a 12th of a year. And so this comes out to roughly $725.83. So what happens at the end of this first month? Well, we've earned $725.83, or really our loan has earned it. So we owe more money now, not just the $134,000, but we're also going to make a payment. And we figured out our monthly payment was $846.97. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to pay the interest off first. So that means our payment, most of our payment is going to be going to covering this interest. And then what remains, the remainder, goes towards the principal. So what we're going to have to do is when we make this monthly payment, we're going to subtract this interest. And again, we calculated the interest using the simple interest formula, I equals PRT, where principal is $134,000. R was that interest rate, 6.5 or 0.065. And since this is only for a month, T was a 12th of a year or 1 month. So we're going to subtract from the payment the interest. And what's left behind will be $121.14. So this is the actual amount that goes to the principal. So that means we can reduce the principal, even though we did a payment of almost $850, we're going to reduce the principal by $121.14. So at the end of this first month, the new principal $134,000 minus 121.14, and that equals $133,878.86. So again, at the end of the first month, that's what we have reduced our principal by. So the point is, and then to find out what happens at the end of the second month, we'll do one more calculation for that. But it's going to be this same idea. So now when we calculate our interest, it's not 134,000 we're going to calculate the interest on. It's going to be on this. So at the end of the first or the second month, we'll call that M2. It's going to be PRT. Again, we're using that simple interest formula. The R and T are going to be the same. R is still 0.065. We're calculating interest across the second month because we've paid off the interest from the previous month. And we're only looking at, well, we're just looking at interest from the second month. That's what we're doing. We're only looking at the interest across the second month. So again, T is going to be 112. And so when we calculate this, we'll get approximately $725.18. Now we're still doing the same monthly payment. So $846.97 minus $725.18. And if we do that, what we're going to get is $121.79. So when we pay off this interest, we're left with this amount to be applied to the remaining mortgage. Now, we're applying more to the mortgage than what we did last time. Last time is $121.14. Now it's $121.79. So the idea is that as time passes, as we're paying off more of this mortgage, there's a little less interest that we have to pay off each time. And so the amount left over to pay off our mortgage is going to slowly grow. In this case, it grew by 65 cents. So the new mortgage, or the new principal, 133,878.86 minus 121.79. So the new principal is 133,757 and 7 cents. But the moral of the story, excuse me, the moral of the story is that as we keep making these payments more and more, we have to always keep paying off that interest. And as we keep paying it off, we're going to also be able to have more and more, just a little bit each time, that will remove money from the principal. And when the principal shrinks, the interest we have to pay off the next round, that's also going to be smaller. And you can see how this plays out. They calculate this for a full year. You see it on page 674. And by the time, so when the beginning of the first month of this first year, the amount of interest you're paying off is $725.83. By the end of the first year, the amount of interest you're paying off is $718.42. So it's dropped by over $7. The amount of interest you're paying per month is down by $7 after 1 year. In the meantime, the principal, the amount that you're reducing from the principal each payment, well, at the end of the first month, as we saw, it's $121.14. If you look at the 12th month, you're now reducing the principal by $128.55. So by over $7. So there you go. I mean, that's sort of an idea of how that's being computed. But you pay off the interest first, and then whatever's left over, you can remove from your principal. So again, we're going to have a payoff formula. This is similar to what we saw last time. In fact, it's going to be exactly the same. So the APR loan payoff formula, and it's going to be this. Basically, it's our payment formula, and you divide by everything in the large parentheses. With that, there's one little difference, just like with the other formula. So PMT is your mortgage payment. It's usually going to be monthly. R is your interest rate. That's usually an annual interest rate. N is the number of payments per year, and usually this is 12. And then we have U. And just like before, U is the number of remaining payments. So the idea is this. If you're making monthly payments like this, of this amount, okay, I'm assuming monthly, but let's say it is monthly. and you've got an interest rate, and this is the number, this would probably be 12, of course, if we're talking monthly payments. If you have this many payments remaining, what do you need to give the bank to pay off this loan? And the what's interesting about this formula is the amount of the loan. You don't see it here explicitly. The payment here is going to have an impact there. The amount of payment you have to make. So let's take a look at an example. So let's say you have this. $645 monthly payment on a 30-year loan or mortgage at 7.2%. After 5 years of payments, you decide to pay off the house. What is the amount of the payoff? Or the payoff amount, I guess I should say. So we've been paying off this house for 5 years, and we decide, you know what, I don't want to spend 25 years, or you decide you don't want to spend 25 years paying off your house, and you say, okay, fine, I want to pay it off all right now. So we want to figure out, what is that payoff amount going to be? So we've got our R. R 0.072. This is monthly, so that means N is 12. The monthly payment $645.32. And then the last thing we need is U. Now, the capital U well, the total payments, or the number of payments, well, we're making 12 payments per year. We're doing this for 30 years. So in this problem, that's 360 total payments. Now, let's say you've decided after 5 years of these payments, you don't want to do this anymore. You just want to pay it off, get it over with. So the number of completed payments well, you made 12 payments per year for 5 years. So that's going to come out to 60 payments. So you need to make 360 to pay off this house. You've made 60 already. So the remaining payments U is 360 minus 60 or 300. So U is going to be 300. Any questions about that? All right. Ooh, if I'm erasing too fast, please let me know.
You're fine, I got it.
Awesome. All right. So taking a look at the formula, again, we'll use that trick they use in the text. It's kind of a neat trick. R over N 0.072 over 12 gets 0.006. So our formula, our PMT is 645, 32. You have 1 minus 1 plus 0.006 to the negative 300. All of that divided by 0.006. So let's see, 1.006 to the negative 300. What we're going to, I think I can squeeze this in here. Let's see. Subtract that from 1. We'll do that division. And again, I mean, it can be tedious, but if you're not sure, if you think you're going to make sort of like a keystroke error on the calculator, this isn't a bad way to go. Though granted, it can be a little tedious. It comes out to 89,679 0.01. Again, rounding to the nearest hundredths place. And so that would be the payoff amount. So any questions about that? So the last thing to mention in this section is when you're owning property, you're not just going to have your mortgage to worry about. You're also going to have property taxes. You might have insurance payments, things like this. And these are things that they're going to be included. Once you buy a house, you're going to have all these other things to consider. So owning property is more than mortgage payments. So you have property tax, fire insurance, and you could also have other things as well. If you live like in a, say, like some communities, they form what's called like a homeowners association. So you might have to pay monthly fees to your homeowners association. So once you buy property, there's a lot of other things to keep in mind. It's not just going to be your mortgage. You also have to consider what your property taxes are going to be. And you also want to consider what your fire insurance is going to be. So let's just do an example to get an idea of what the monthly payments could be when you bring in the mortgage and these other things. So let's say you have this. So there's a mortgage of $1,145.60 with an annual. So mortgage, this is monthly. This is a monthly mortgage, I should say here. It's a monthly mortgage payment of $1,145.60. But there's an annual property tax of $1,074. So this is annual. So this is for 12 months. And annual fire insurance go up to the top here. Of $600. So we want to find the total monthly payment. So we know the mortgage, the monthly mortgage payment that's $1,145.60. Now we need the monthly, just as a reminder, it's monthly. We're going to need the monthly property tax. And so that's going to be $1,074 divided by 12. That comes out to $89.50. Finally, we're going to need the monthly fire insurance, because here the fire insurance was given to us annually. This will be $600 divided by 12 for $50. So these three amounts here, these are the monthly fees. So to get the total, we'll just add these up. So the mortgage is $1,145.60, but we need to include property tax and fire insurance. And so we include those. What we're going to get is $1,285.10. So any questions about this? The moral of the story, excuse me.
It was $1,085?
Oh, $1,285.
Okay, good. Moral of the story.
Ooh. The moral of the story, even though your mortgage is this, you're actually going to be paying that. There's a lot of extra fees and costs that go into owning property. So it's something just to keep in mind. When you see like a for sale sign, like say a piece of, like let's say that property, the condominium was $134,000. Let's say there's like some property you want to purchase for that amount. If you do that for like a 30-year mortgage, you're actually going to pay more money in the interest than $134,000. In addition to your monthly mortgage payments, these property taxes and fire insurance as well. The mortgage, you had to show up to get that mortgage. You had to show up with a down payment, and then you had, which was removed from the amount you would owe, which is a good thing. But then you have these other fees like bank fees, attorney fees, the loan origination fee, which is just a fee that you pay, and it's not deducted from your mortgage. It's just something else you have to pay. So really kind of the moral of the story is there's a lot of stuff that goes into buying a piece of property. If you see like a nice field for $100,000 and you're like, oh, I can just pay $100,000 and I have it. It might not. You might actually end up paying over $200,000 for that field. And then in addition, you've got all these fees you got to cover, bank fees, loan origination fees, and then you're going to have your property taxes, you're going to have your fire insurance and things like that. Not sure about fire insurance on a field, but who knows, you might still actually, especially if you're going to build anything on it. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just the sticker price. That's kind of the main theme in this. But that's it. That's the end of section 11.5. That's the end of chapter 11. We'll start getting into chapter 12. This is where we're getting into probability. And this helps if you're ultimately going to segue into like statistics, a course like that. We'll get some of the basics of probability covered in a little bit. But unless you have any other questions, that's it. And we'll have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Joey. We'll see you next week.